Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode on my YouTube. And today I just wanted to go into it a little bit unplanned and just talk from my personal experiences, what sort of led me here and how I healed my relationship with food. Because if anybody knows me as a coach, so my coaching brand is called The Glute Girl, which everyone thinks is going to be like glutes orientated, training orientated. And as much as I love focusing on the training side of things, my personal journey actually started from me discovering that I had a really unhealthy relationship with food, and I spent years trying to overcome that. And now that is actually where majority of my coaching lies from, and a lot of our clients that come on board, whether it's for their fat loss journey or if they struggle with binge eating or anything like that, they will know that everything orientates around your relationship with food, and everything actually stems from this, okay? And all of us will probably have a hindered relationship with food. You know, you might have a super bad one, you might have a decent relationship with food, some of us will have a really good relationship with food. And the only time that I really see women having a good relationship with food is if they've never went through a diet phase, or if they started with a coach, a well-educated coach from day dot of their coaching journey or of their training journey in general, and they learned the right tools the right way. Because that is definitely a mistake that I made when I started my health and fitness journey. I did not look into coaches. I sort of realized that I was in a really bad position before I did that. And that's when most of us actually end up reaching out for help. And that's obviously totally fine, because it's like when we hit a low is when we feel like we need that support, and like we are willing to invest into other people a little bit more to learn more and gain a better understanding of it. But unfortunately, I didn't do that until quite late into my journey, and I've been on my journey for 10 years now, so it's been a long time. And when I first started, you know, yes, it was a bit up and down, didn't really understand it, so everything was still fine from that perspective. But my relationship with food before I started my health and fitness journey, I would say, was decent. I was probably not eating enough, but not aware of it. I ate what I wanted. I didn't understand numbers. I didn't understand calories. I didn't have to think about any of that in the past. And then as I got deeper into my health and fitness journey, and calories became a thing and weight loss became a thing, and it was more of an ongoing trend, that's where my relationship with food really started to suffer. And I actually ended up going downhill, and I was just eating as healthy as I possibly could, restricting myself Monday to Friday, and then eating whatever I wanted at the weekends. And even though that in my head was like, oh, I deserve this, or like I have this to look forward to, obviously I didn't see any results. But as well as that, by doing this and just having no education in the background, I actually restricted myself in a way I didn't even realize at the time. And I looked at food as a reward system. So every weekend I would be buzzing for the weekend, because I could eat whatever I wanted and I could go completely mental, and then I would feel guilty going into Monday again, and that's when the restriction would start. And I kept repeating the cycle Monday through to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I would basically binge out, but I didn't actually label it as a binge, because I was like, I deserve this. I worked so hard all week. I get to enjoy myself now. But obviously that just ended up backfiring, because once I realized that results weren't coming, and I was actually going the opposite end of the spectrum, and I was seeing results that I didn't want to see, I started to dive deeper into it. And I actually made a mistake of investing in a coach because they were cheaper, and I didn't really do my research. They always promoted great results, 6-8 week transformations. And this is why I am so against short-term transformations now, because I know the damage that they can do, because I've been there and I've done it personally. And I went to this coach, seen amazing results, as in got really lean, or skinny is the word I should use for that. But I was on 700 calories, 700 to 900 calories every day. I couldn't function. I was so afraid of food coming out of that. And yeah, I got an amazing transformation for the coach. Do you think I've heard from the coach since? No, absolutely not. And the reason being is because these coaches know what they're doing wrong in the industry, and they're just looking your before and afters. I gave her the promotion that she needed, and that was it. She didn't care about my well-being. I lost my cycle. I was in a healthy position. My food noise was higher than ever, and it actually ended up backfiring. And after that, I ended up going through a really bad period of binge eating. And obviously, for all of you that might be on this page, a lot of you will know I talk a lot about binge eating, emotional triggers, everything else. I didn't understand any of this at the time, or why this was happening to me. I would secret eat. I would, for example, go into the gym, because that's where I worked at the time. I would go into the gym and barely eat anything at all, or eat super healthy, go home and just literally max out. And one thing all of you will probably know if you follow me on social media, and if you don't, you'll get to know now, is like Biscoff is my favorite thing in the absolute world. And that was actually one of my biggest trigger foods. Biscoff was the one, like if I had a jar of that in the house, I would sit down and eat it in one sitting. I would feel sick after. I would feel so like low in myself. I would feel like I have no willpower, no self-control. There was so many negatives that came with that. But I didn't understand where it was stemming from until I realised that it was getting completely out of hand. And I stopped buying that food, and then I was craving it. And when I would get a taste for it, I would just go completely nuts again. So everything I was doing just kept backfiring on me in a different way. And all that stemmed down to is the fact that I have completely ruined my relationship with food at that point, which is one of the most important relationships that you will ever have with yourself, because food is social, food is exciting. You want to go and enjoy your time with your family, with your friends. You don't want to feel guilty. You want to feel in control. You know, you eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full. It's gaining control over all of these circumstances. And at the time, I just felt like I had absolutely no control regarding any of that. And that's where I was impacted with the most. And that's sort of what sparked my interest in like, okay, what does this mean? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I reacting this type of way? And I realized that it was all actually in your head, and it's all very mental and mindset orientated. It's all psychology at the end of the day, okay? A lot of the actions, a lot of the behaviors that we have will always stem down to the psychology of our brains and the way we think. And I was just not thinking in the right way in order to actually overcome that. And when I say it took me years to overcome this, and I still get triggered by this every now and again. Yes, it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, and I feel much more in control, and I have a better understanding as to why this was happening or why this may happen. But it took years to overcome that. And this is the one thing I really want to address. If you're at a really low point where you're binge eating all the time, for example, or restricting yourself and just feeling the need to like eat as little as possible because you are hating on your body, and you're like and you're putting yourself down constantly, that is the first thing that you need to stop doing. And this is all going to come down to how you think about it, okay? So like I said, everything sort of comes down to the psychology of it, okay? And it's being aware of like, okay, why are you binge eating? Is it from restriction? Is it from emotional triggers? Is it that you're seeking food as a way of comfort? Or whatever the case might be. But to take me back to my point of Biscoff, I literally have Biscoff every single day now, and it doesn't spark a single trigger in me anymore. And how I had to overcome that is by literally, firstly, I invested in a coach that listened, and a well-educated coach, okay? This coach was higher up in the industry. They had good reviews. They were a lot more expensive than the previous coach. But looking back now, the money that I have invested in coaching over the years, I do not regret it whatsoever, because I needed the support. And it's okay to admit that. Me as a coach, I'm still with my coach to this day. And it's not because I don't like know what I'm doing, or I need somebody else to sort of like put everything in the process for me. It's not that. It's accountability. It's because no matter how long you've been on this journey, no matter how much I promote a healthy lifestyle, overcoming your relationship with food, to this day I will still get triggered by different factors. I still panic every now and again when the scales go up. I still panic, like if I'm going through a stressful situation, my appetite disappears altogether. And if it wasn't down to having that accountability in the background, it would be really, really hard for me to stay on top of it. So that's why I still invest in coaching to this day, because it's an investment. It's an investment in you. It's an investment in your health. And also, all I do all day is programming, meal plans, check-in. So it's nice to take the thought process out of it and have my own training plan and my own meal plan set in front of me, so I don't have to think about it, and I can just focus on my clients as well. So there's lots of positives that come from it. But the reason I bring that up is because that's one of the biggest coaching mistakes, or that's one of the biggest personal mistakes I made in my journey, okay? Firstly, I was looking at somebody like, okay, results, quick, 6 to 8 weeks, that's perfect. I won't need them longer than that. You will. Trust me, you will. I've been with my recent coach for 6 years. I think I took like a year gap in between that. But besides that, I've been checking in every single week, every Wednesday consistently, as a result of having that accountability, okay? It's a long-term journey, and you go through so many different phases in that journey. But the mistake I made is I invested in somebody that was cheap. The investment was small, and yeah, I got the results that I paid for, essentially, which completely backfired on me, ruined my relationship with food, ruined my body. Like, it took me years to overcome that. And then I invested in somebody that was obviously a lot more educated, that actually cared about me, that cared about my health, and like female hormones, actually had an understanding of what they were doing. And yes, the investment was a lot bigger, but looking back now, do I regret it? No. I would pay triple the price if I knew it would have led me to where I am at today. And that's the main thing I want to address, because like being in the industry myself, I always see it all the time. Like coaches in particular, for example, promoting 6-week shreds and stuff like that. That's a red warning sign, okay? And most of them are always on sale, which is also a red warning sign. They're just trying to get you over the line. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you need or what your struggles are. And you will probably end up in a worse position, which I hate to say because I'm in the industry and I love health and fitness, but there is a lot of uneducated people in this industry, unfortunately. But yeah, essentially how I started to overcome that is obviously I invested into somebody else that would have essentially just guided me in the right direction. The first thing I had to do is reverse my calories back up. I was eating that little calories for so long, my metabolism had actually crashed. So I trained my body to eat more and I trusted the process. There were spikes in the scales, there was binges in between. I fell off track every now and again, and that's normal, but it's about not falling into that all or nothing mentality. So I just kept going. I kept repeating the same processes. I stopped doing that bullshit of eating really well Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, days off. No, if I wanted a meal off on a random Wednesday, I would have had a meal off and I wouldn't have felt guilty for it. But it's gaining control of it. Like, I looked at my food, I wasn't restricted. Like before this, all I was eating was like chicken, rice, egg whites and whatnot for breakfast and stuff like that, which is foods that I do not enjoy. They don't align with me. They're not realistic for me. So I started implementing lovely meals that I really enjoyed. I had chocolate every single day. For my breakfast, I had oats with like Biscoff in them as an example. Do you know what I mean? I always implemented all my favorite foods into all of my meals every single day. And the reason that this mattered is because I was training both my body and my mind to overcome that battle of this is a bad thing to do, because it wasn't. You should not feel guilty for eating food. Food is here for survival. That's why we're here. Do you know what I mean? You should not feel guilty for that, but you should feel in control of that. And that let me gain more control over everything again and sort of like gain my confidence back around food. And if that jar of Biscoff was set in front of me, I didn't have that food noise in the back of my head going, eat it all, eat it all. I didn't have that at all. Eat it if you want it. Have a little bit. If you don't eat it. That's how I sort of overcame that, and it was by introducing that every single day and not labeling it as a bad thing to have. No foods are good and bad. Some foods, yes, they have better nutritional value and others just don't. But yes, to what you would call a good food, higher nutritional value, you want 80% of your diet to make up for that, okay? The other 20% have whatever it is that you want. This is how we keep that balance. This is how we avoid the binges from happening from a concept of restriction. So that was one of the first things I did. I also stepped out of the calorie deficit. I took time away from the fat loss phase and I just maintained. And then once I actually built more confidence up, I started going into a surplus. But the most important thing is to come out of the deficit, because deficit will always be restrictive in some sort of way, okay? And yes, you might want to see fat loss results, but if you are somebody that's eating 700, 800 or even 1200 calories and you've been doing it for a long time, you have ruined your metabolism and you actually have to go the opposite end of the spectrum in order to see that fat loss again. So I took that time, sat in around maintenance, got more comfortable with eating more, got more comfortable with being around food, and then I started increasing my calories, and that was the best thing I've ever done, because the next diet phase I did, it was completely different. I was able to eat more than ever before in a fat loss phase to start with. I didn't have to cut absolutely anything out. Yes, I limited how much of the nutritional value foods I was having, but they were still in my diet. I still had my chocolate bar at the end of every day. I still woke up and had my oats with Biscoff in them. I still enjoyed all of those aspects. I was having spag bol every single night, loads of pasta. Do you know what I mean? I was able to do all that and get into my leanest condition yet, but in the healthiest way. I didn't lose my cycle. I didn't have brain fog. My hair wasn't falling out. I felt really, really good. My energy was still high. Yes, it was obviously tough at certain aspects and at different stages of your cycle and stuff like that, but I didn't have a single binge that whole diet phase. And if I didn't take that year prior to really focus on improving my mindset, improving that psychology going on in my brain around food, to get over that food noise and get over that fear, I would have never done that fat loss phase successfully, and it really, really does take a lot of time, and you have to be patient and you have to put your trust into somebody else, because at that point when you're feeling so lost, it's out of your control. It's literally out of your control, and you just have to sort of put your trust into somebody else that they understand and they know what you're doing and how your body works. And it was the best thing I've ever done, because now if anybody knows me, you invite me for cocktails on a random Tuesday, I'll be there. You invite me to get a dinner out on a Saturday, I'll be there. Like, I don't even question where we're going, what we're going to be eating. Do you know what I mean? Can I track the food? I didn't do any of that. I don't do any of that anymore, because I don't care. Like, food doesn't define me or my life anymore. I am in control of it. So what that means is I'll go on drinks on a random Tuesday, and then Wednesday I'm straight back into routine. I'll go out for dinner on a Saturday and I'll get whatever I want. Sometimes that may be chicken or steak or whatever else. Sometimes it might be pasta, sometimes it might be a pizza. I will eat whatever I want, and then Sunday I'm straight back into routine. And that's where I really start to overcome that, because I realized by doing that and allowing myself that more flexibility, it made me feel more in control, and it meant all those other times I was able to stay on track as well, which is the key thing. So my top tips for anybody that is struggling with overcoming their relationship with food: one of the first things I will say is invest in somebody to get the support and guidance, but do your research. Have a conversation with them, explain how you're feeling, see what their solution is. That can they actually help you? Are you going to work well together? Don't just ask somebody how much for an 8-week program. They give you the price and you sign up because it's the cheapest option you've came across. You need to know who you're working with, and you need to know and feel like you trust them and that they understand exactly what you're going through, because if it's based off your mindset, and that's where the real struggle is, you'll not be able to overcome that. Number 2, potentially if you have been tracking calories for a really long time, step away from it, okay? Give yourself a little bit more freedom. 3, start having meals that you enjoy. Incorporate all your favorite foods on a daily basis. Even if you're tracking calories, even if you're not, have your favorite foods on a daily basis. This helps you overcome that concept of this is good, this is bad, and you start looking at food as neutral and food as energy, food as fuel. What makes you feel good, that's what you eat. Do you know what I mean? If you're craving something, that's what you have. But you're going to learn to have more control over it. And the 4th thing is allow for mistakes to happen and allow yourself to mess up, okay? It's not going to be a breeze. You will binge, you will fall off track, you'll go and fall back into your old habits. But the important thing here is not to stay in these, and that's the main bit of advice that I will give you. That's how you're going to overcome that all or nothing mindset, and that's how you're going to stop letting yourself from being stuck. If it happens, if you have a binge, fine. Okay, it happened, reflect on it. What was the trigger? Where did it stem from? You know, was it stress? Was it emotions? Was it work? Was it something going on? Like, were you just bored? What was it? Write down the trigger, so the next time you're going into it a little bit more aware. That really helped me along my journey, and I actually do that with any of my clients that struggle with their relationship with food or binge eating in particular at the minute, because then we can look at the data and see, okay, 5 out of 10 of their binges were due to stress, for example, and the other ones were maybe mixed in with boredom, certain foods, whatever the case might be. And then we are able to recognize that actually it's not the binge eating that's the problem, it's the stress management that's the issue with this person. What we need to do is reduce their stress, which at the same time is going to reduce their binging. And that's how we focus on making those improvements. But I hope this gave you a little bit of insight, and I hope for anybody that is struggling with their relationship with food at the minute, that it is something that you choose to overcome and really invest into, because trust me, my life looks completely different from back then to now. I do not recognize that little girl that was struggling with that side of things, and I'm so much happier. I am so much more present when I go out, when I meet people, when I go out with my family, when I'm having social occasions. I'm so much more present and less worried about what I'm consuming, and I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been now, and I've been eating what I want, you know. So there is a much bigger picture with it all, and trust me, you want to overcome that bridge that you're stuck in at the minute. And of course, if it is something you're struggling with and you want to reach out, and like I said, you can book in a chat with myself and we can have a conversation to see if I can truly help you overcome your current struggle and take it from there. Even if it's not me, I would recommend for you all to reach out for support and get some help, but just make sure you're investing in somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, you know. But hope this has been helpful, and hope you find this interesting, and I shall see you all next week.